"Marry me immediately," said the alien queen. "What she really wanted will shock you." A celestial accident. Nadia Voss was allergic to diplomatic functions. Not literally, though the synthetic champagne served at Helix Station receptions did give her hives. No, it was more that after 15 years in the United Earth Coalition's diplomatic corps, she had developed an acute sensitivity to the forced smiles, calculated handshakes, and weaponized pleasantries that filled these rooms. "Another thrilling evening in interstellar relations," she muttered, adjusting the uncomfortably stiff collar of her formal uniform. The midnight blue jacket with its silver piping and constellation of service medals made her look far more important than she actually was. Nadia's official title was Senior Diplomatic Liaison to Emerging Species, which translated roughly to "please stand in the corner looking official while not causing an interplanetary incident." It was where the coalition sent decorated veterans with too many accolades to fire but too many unorthodox methods to promote. Helix Station hung in the void between Earth and Mars like an elaborate chandelier, all gleaming spires and transparent corridors that twisted in a double helix pattern. Built as neutral ground for species across the galaxy, it was held together by equal parts advanced technology, outdated translation matrices, and industrial-strength adhesive that smelled vaguely of cinnamon. "Your heart rate indicates distress," chirped Puck, the pebble-sized AI assistant hovering near her shoulder. "Would you like a breathing exercise or perhaps a quick exit strategy?" "Neither," Nadia sighed, snagging another glass of the iridescent blue liquid from a passing service drone. "I'd like to be literally anywhere else." "That can be arranged," Puck replied cheerfully. "There's an atmospheric shuttle departing in 23 minutes. I could fake a medical emergency." Tempting, but Commander Acaffer would see through it. Again. The reception hall buzzed with the usual suspects. Mercurian trade delegates with their metallic skin catching the light. A cluster of Europan scientists whose translucent bodies pulsed with bioluminescence when they laughed, and various human officials trying desperately to look comfortable among beings who breathed nitrogen or communicated through color changes. Nadia was midway through her drink when the station's ambient lighting shifted to a deep purple, the signal for an arriving dignitary of the highest rank. The murmur of conversation died as all eyes turned toward the main entrance. "Incoming alert," Puck whispered. "Queen Thalia of the Luminari Collective has arrived unscheduled." Nadia nearly choked on her drink. "The Luminari here? That's impossible." The Luminari were notoriously reclusive, inhabiting a distant star system that had only established formal contact with Earth 50 years ago. In all that time, no human had ever seen their monarch in person. When Queen Thalia entered, the air in the room seemed to vibrate with an electric charge. She moved as though gravity was merely a suggestion, each step perfectly calculated. Her skin had a subtle silver luminescence that shifted with her movements, and her hair, if you could call it that, was a crown of what looked like living crystal that caught and refracted light in hypnotic patterns. But it was her eyes that commanded attention, entirely black except for pinpricks of light that mirrored constellations, as though she carried galaxies within her gaze. The Luminari sovereign wore ceremonial robes embroidered with what appeared to be mathematical equations that subtly shifted and solved themselves as she moved. Two attendants followed, their expressions as unreadable as polished stone. "Nobody move," Commander Acaffer's voice crackled through Nadia's earpiece. "Voss, you're closest. Basic protocol only." Of course she was closest. Nadia always seemed to be in exactly the wrong place at exactly the wrong time. She straightened her posture, mentally cycling through the diplomatic greeting protocols for Class A sovereigns. The Luminari were technically Class S, beyond standard classification, but she'd have to improvise. As Nadia stepped forward, she carefully executed the formal bow required for royal dignitaries. "Your Radiance, Helix Station welcomes you. I am Senior Liaison Nadia Voss of the United Earth Coalition." Queen Thalia studied her with those galaxy eyes, head tilting slightly as though adjusting to the sight of a human up close. "You are a warrior," she said, her voice carrying a harmonic overtone that made the crystal fixtures in the room resonate. It wasn't a question. Nadia kept her expression neutral. "I served in the Titan conflict, yes. Yet now you speak instead of fight. Some battles are better won with words than weapons, your Radiance." Something flickered across the Queen's face, amusement perhaps. It was gone before Nadia could identify it. "You will do," Queen Thalia said. "Do," Nadia blinked. "Do what exactly?" Without answering, Thalia turned toward the assembled dignitaries, her robes flowing like liquid mathematics. When she spoke, her voice carried effortlessly through the hall without any apparent amplification. "I have chosen," she announced. "We shall be united immediately." The reception hall fell into stunned silence. A Jovian diplomat dropped his crystal flute, which shattered with a sound like distant bells. Somewhere in the crowd, a translation device began spouting nonsense syllables before shutting down completely. Nadia's brain stuttered through several possible interpretations before landing on the most alarming one. "I'm sorry, Your Radiance," she said, struggling to maintain diplomatic composure. "But could you clarify what you mean by united?" "In your terms," Queen Thalia said with imperial certainty, "marriage." Commander Akafar's voice exploded in Nadia's earpiece. "What did she just say? Voss, don't you dare respond until we—" Nadia discreetly muted her calm. This situation required her full attention without headquarters screaming in her ear. "Marriage," she repeated carefully, buying time while her mind raced. "That's quite an honor, but perhaps there's been a translation error. We've only just met." "Time is irrelevant to fate," Thalia replied. "The stars have aligned." The Luminari, attendants exchanged glances that even Nadia could interpret as concerned. Esteban Rhodes, the coalition's chief diplomatic coordinator, rushed over, datapad clutched to his chest like a shield. "Your Radiance," he began, voice strained with barely contained panic. "There are no existing protocols for cross-species unions of this nature. Perhaps we could establish a working committee to explore." "No," Thalia said, the single syllable resonating with such authority that Rhodes physically stepped back. "It must be now. The alignment is perfect." Nadia fought the urge to laugh hysterically. This had to be some elaborate cosmic joke. Or perhaps she'd finally snapped under the pressure of too many diplomatic functions and was hallucinating the entire scenario. "Nadia," Puck whispered from her shoulder, "Coalition emergency protocol suggests you stall while they assemble a crisis team." She nodded imperceptibly. "Your Radiance, while I'm flattered by your proposal, this is quite unexpected. Perhaps we could discuss the terms privately before making such a monumental announcement." For the first time, uncertainty flickered across Thalia's otherworldly features. "Terms." "Yes, on Earth, marriage usually involves some negotiation beforehand. You know." Nadia fumbled for something appropriately matrimonial. "Living arrangements, shared responsibilities, that sort of thing." The Queen considered this for a moment, her crystalline crown shifting subtly in what might have been contemplation. "Very well, we shall discuss terms." She gestured to her attendants, who immediately moved to clear a path toward a private antechamber. As Nadia followed the luminary sovereign, she caught Rhodes mouthing, "Fix this," with the desperation of a man watching his career implode in real time. The antechamber doors sealed behind them with a soft hiss, the opaque crystalline material shifting to ensure privacy. Inside, the room adjusted its lighting to accommodate luminary preferences, a soft violet glow that made the queen's skin shimmer like moonlight on water. "Now," Nadia said, exhaling slowly, "perhaps you could explain why you've just proposed marriage to a complete stranger in front of half the galaxy's diplomatic corps." Thalia's regal posture softened almost imperceptibly. It was not a proposal, it was a declaration. "That's not better." The queen moved to the viewport, where the red planet Mars hung like a distant ember. "Your understanding of luminary culture is limited." "Clearly," Nadia agreed, fighting to keep sarcasm from her voice. "So enlighten me. Why me? Why now? Why marriage of all things?" "Among my people," Thalia said, her voice taking on a different quality, less imperial, more measured, "there is an ancient tradition. When a sovereign wishes to break from predetermined paths, they may invoke the right of celestial union. And this right involves marrying the nearest available diplomat." "It involves choosing an outsider," Thalia corrected, "one not bound by luminary politics, one who can stand beside me as equal yet separate." Nadia's diplomatic instincts, honed through years of reading between lines and navigating unspoken agendas, suddenly fired. "You're using me to escape something." Thalia turned, surprise evident in her stellar eyes. "Your perception is unexpected. It's my job to understand political maneuvers, your radiance. What exactly are you trying to avoid?" A silence stretched between them, heavy with unspoken complexities. Finally, Thalia spoke, her voice barely above a whisper yet somehow filling the room. "An arranged union with the Vorax Imperium that would bind our worlds in a military alliance, I do not support." Understanding dawned on Nadia like a cold sunrise, "and by choosing an Earth diplomat instead. I prevent that alliance while establishing ties with your coalition instead. The ancient laws are clear. Once the right is invoked, no other union can supersede it." Nadia ran a hand through her short, dark hair, disturbing its careful styling. "So this isn't actually about me at all. I'm just a convenient political tool." "You were not chosen at random," Thalia countered. "Your reputation precedes you. The diplomat who negotiated peace on Titan by challenging the warlord to single combat rather than endless talks. That was unconventional. It was effective. And now I need someone who understands that sometimes tradition must be broken to preserve what matters most." Nadia studied the alien queen carefully. Behind the regal facade and otherworldly features, she recognized something intimately familiar, the look of someone trapped by duty and desperate for escape. "If I agree to this," she said slowly, "what exactly would this marriage entail?" "By your human standards, very little. No shared dwelling, no expectations of intimacy. Legally, you would become a sovereign consort with diplomatic immunity throughout luminary space. And what happens when you no longer need this political shield?" Something like respect flickered in Thalia's constellation eyes. "The union can be dissolved after one stellar cycle, once the Vorax negotiations have concluded. So I'd be a temporary spouse of convenience." "Precisely." Puck chimed softly from Nadia's shoulder. "Coalition headquarters is demanding an update, and Commander Akafer's blood pressure is reaching concerning levels." Nadia waved the AI quiet, her mind racing through implications, consequences, and opportunities. This was either career suicide or the most significant diplomatic coup in Earth's recent history. One more question, she said. Why did you really choose me? The truth this time. Thalia's expression shifted, the mathematical patterns in her robes solving new equations as she moved closer. Because when I entered that room, you were the only one who looked as trapped as I feel. The honesty in the statement caught Nadia off guard. Well, she said finally, a wry smile breaking through her diplomatic mask, I've always wanted a destination wedding. I just didn't expect the destination to be interstellar incident. For the first time, Queen Thalia of the Luminari actually smiled, a subtle curve of lips that somehow transformed her entire countenance from remote divinity to something almost human. Is that acceptance, liaison vos? Nadia took a deep breath, thinking of the chaos that awaited beyond the chamber doors, the endless reports she'd have to file, the probable court-martial. On one condition, your radiance. Name it. Call me Nadia. If we're getting married, formality seems a bit redundant. The room's crystalline walls hummed in response to the Queen's amusement. As you wish, Nadia. And that was how senior diplomatic liaison Nadia Voss accidentally became consort to an alien queen, all because she happened to be standing in the wrong place at the right time. It wasn't even the strangest Tuesday of her career, but it was certainly in the top 3. Stardust diplomacy. The official announcement of Nadia's unexpected union with Queen Thalia sent shockwaves through the diplomatic community. Helix Station's Central Command Center had been transformed into an emergency response hub, with screens displaying incoming messages from Earth governments, Luminari counselors, and, most concerning, the Vorax Imperium, whose representatives were reportedly en route with a fleet of ceremonial warships. Nadia stood before a mirror in her newly assigned quarters, staring at her reflection with a mixture of disbelief and resignation. The traditional Luminari consort attire she now wore was surprisingly comfortable despite its alien design. A flowing suit of midnight blue fabric shot through with threads that glimmered like distant stars when she moved. The material seemed to respond to her body temperature, adjusting seamlessly to her movements. You appear distressed, observed Puck, hovering near her shoulder. Your cortisol levels have increased 43% since yesterday. Being rushed into an interspecies political marriage will do that, Nadia replied dryly, adjusting the collar that framed her face with what appeared to be living crystal. How's the coalition taking it? The official statement describes your union as an unprecedented opportunity for cultural exchange. Unofficially, there have been 17 emergency meetings in the past 6 hours, and Commander Okafor has requested stress leave. At least someone gets a vacation out of this, she sighed, turning away from the mirror. What's on the agenda for today? The formal recognition ceremony begins in 43 minutes. Following that, representatives from the Galactic Concord will present the official documentation of your union. Then there's a reception where a soft chime interrupted Puck's briefing as the door to her quarters dissolved into particles of light. Queen Thalia entered alone, her crystalline crown now more subdued, suggesting this was an informal visit. Your attendants were concerned about your absence, the Queen said, moving into the room with that characteristic gravity-defying grace. I needed a moment to process all of this. Nadia gestured vaguely at her attire, the room, and the general situation. Thalia nodded, studying her with those star-filled eyes. Adaptation requires time, I understand. Do you? Nadia asked, unable to keep a hint of challenge from her voice. Because you seem remarkably comfortable with throwing both our lives into diplomatic chaos. Chaos is merely order we have yet to comprehend, Thalia replied, moving to the viewport where Earth hung like a blue jewel against the void. The Vorax delegation has crossed the Epsilon boundary. They will arrive within 12 hours. Nadia felt her stomach tighten. That's sooner than expected. They are displeased. That's one way to put it. The Vorax admiral called it an act of cosmic betrayal in his transmission. Something that might have been a smile flickered across Thalia's face. Admiral Krav has always had a flair for the dramatic. "Is that who you were supposed to marry?" Nadia asked, curiosity overcoming her diplomatic reserve. Thalia's expression darkened, the patterns in her robes shifting to more angular, harsh equations. No, his son, General Tarn Krav, a military strategist with ambitions of conquest. The Union would have given him access to luminary star charts and navigation technology, which he would have used to expand the Imperium's borders, including, eventually, toward Earth. Nadia absorbed this information, her military training automatically calculating strategic implications. So this marriage isn't just about your freedom. It's a preventive measure against potential aggression toward my homeworld. Multiple objectives can be achieved through single actions, Thalia acknowledged. Efficiency is valued among my people. Before Nadia could respond, Puck chimed urgently. Incoming priority alert. The Galactic Concord has invoked the clause of sincerity regarding your union. Nadia looked to Thalia, whose composure faltered for just a moment. Translation, please. They doubt the authenticity of our union, the Queen explained, her voice cooling several degrees. They will require proof that our arrangement is not merely political manipulation. But it is political manipulation, Nadia pointed out. Yes, but we cannot admit that. The formal recognition ceremony was held in Helix Station's grand atrium, a soaring space where the double helix architecture reached its most dramatic expression. Representatives from 17 worlds filled the tiered seating, their diverse forms creating a living tapestry of galactic life. Nadia stood beside Thalia at the center of the chamber, hyper-aware of the hundreds of eyes, optical sensors, and various sensory appendages focused on them. She recognized Admiral Josephine Winters of the Earth Coalition Navy among the human contingent, her expression a masterpiece of diplomatic neutrality masking obvious concern. Elder Zhen of the Galactic Concord, a being so ancient his species had evolved from aquatic to terrestrial forms within his lifetime, floated forward on a cushion of sound waves. His translucent skin revealed the complex network of thoughts moving through his brain like electrical storms. Queen Thalia of the Luminari Collective. His voice resonated through the chamber in multiple harmonics. Senior Liaison Nadia Voss of Earth. Your unexpected union has been presented to the Concord under emergency protocol. The Vorax Imperium has formally challenged its validity under the clause of sincerity. The chamber hummed with tension as a delegation of Vorax representatives moved forward. Their exoskeletal bodies gleamed with bioluminescent patterns that pulsed with barely contained anger. General Tarn Krav led them, his enhanced height and elaborate armor marking him as nobility. His facial structure reminded Nadia of Earth's ancient mantis species, but with eyes that burned like coals. This union is a deception, Krav declared, voice clicking through translator implants. A political maneuver to avoid sacred commitments already made between our worlds. Elder Zhen nodded gravely. A serious accusation. Under Concord law, we must test the sincerity of this union. How exactly does one test sincerity? Nadia asked, keeping her voice steady despite her racing heart. The Concord employs various methods, Zhen replied. For cross-species unions, the resonance chamber is most appropriate. Murmurs rippled through the assembly. Even Thalia seemed surprised by this announcement. The resonance chamber hasn't been used in 7 generations, she said, a note of concern in her normally unflappable voice. Nadia leaned closer. What's a resonance chamber? A technology from the First Age, Thalia whispered. It reads emotional patterns and thought structures, creating a harmonic field between two beings. It cannot be deceived. So it's like a lie detector test. More intimate, it reveals not just truth or falsehood, but the underlying emotional reality. Our true feelings will be displayed. Nadia felt a chill run through her. Displayed how exactly? Before Thalia could answer, Elder Zhen extended his tendrilled appendages. The chamber has been prepared. You will enter immediately. General Krav's mandibles clicked in satisfaction. When your deception is revealed, the consequences will be severe. The treaty violation alone. There will be no violation, Thalia interrupted, her voice regaining its imperial tone. We accept the challenge. As they were led from the atrium toward a lower level of the station, Nadia fought to maintain her composure. You could have mentioned this possibility, she hissed. I did not anticipate they would resort to such ancient measures, Thalia replied, her voice pitched for Nadia's ears alone. The chamber is rarely used due to its invasive nature. Invasive how exactly? It will create a psychic bridge between us, revealing our true feelings to each other and to the observers. Nadia nearly stumbled. You mean everyone will see inside our heads? Not thoughts precisely, emotional resonance, intentions, core truths. That's not better. The resonance chamber was located in the oldest section of Helix Station, where the architecture shifted from modern crystalline structures to something more organic, almost ancestral. The chamber itself was a perfect sphere, its interior surface covered in what appeared to be living circuitry that pulsed with a soft blue light. Elder Zhen gestured them toward two raised platforms at the center of the sphere. Stand there. Remain still as the field generates. Resist nothing. Resistance causes discomfort. Wonderful, Nadia muttered, taking her position. As the chamber door sealed, leaving them alone within the sphere, Thalia turned to her. For the first time, the Queen's regal composure seemed genuinely shaken. I must tell you something before we begin, she said urgently. The chamber responds to emotional truth, not political convenience. If our intentions are too discordant, the resonance will fail. Meaning we must find some sincere connection, something genuine between us, or we will be exposed as frauds. Nadia felt a surge of panic. You couldn't have mentioned this earlier. Like, before I agreed to this whole charade. There was no time, Thalia said, a note of apology in her voice. But now we must. Before she could finish, the chamber activated. The circuitry along the walls brightened, and a humming vibration filled the air. Nadia felt a sensation like fingers gently probing at the edge of her consciousness. Don't fight it, Thalia whispered as the field intensified. The sensation deepened, becoming less physical and more present. It reminded Nadia of the moment before falling asleep, when thoughts begin to blur and transform. Except now, those thoughts weren't just her own. She felt Thalia's presence, not as words or images, but as emotional impressions. Pride tinged with isolation, determination shadowed by fear. A lifetime of duty weighted against a desperate desire for self-determination. And beneath it all, a surprising sense of hope connected to their unlikely partnership. The resonance field strengthened, pulling their emotional states closer together, creating a feedback loop that amplified shared feelings while highlighting discordances. Through this strange communion, Nadia understood what Thalia had meant about finding a genuine connection. The chamber wouldn't accept political convenience. It needed authentic emotional resonance. Nadia opened her eyes to find Thalia watching her, those stellar eyes filled with something like vulnerability. They're waiting for us to fail, The Queen's voice came through both the air and the resonance field. "To prove we have no true connection." "Then let's disappoint them," Nadia replied, reaching across the small space between their platforms to take Thalia's hand. The moment their fingers touched, the resonance field shifted dramatically. The blue light pulsed brighter, and Nadia felt a flood of shared understanding. Not love, they were still strangers in many ways, but something equally powerful: recognition. Two beings trapped by duty and circumstance, finding unexpected alliance in their shared desire for a different path. Two warriors, one of diplomacy, one of cosmic politics, recognizing each other's strength and determination. The chamber's circuitry shifted from blue to a brilliant gold that radiated outward from where their hands joined. The vibration changed tone, becoming a harmonious chord that seemed to penetrate to the core of their beings. When the chamber doors finally reopened, Elder Zhen and the gathered observers stared in evident surprise at the golden glow that surrounded the pair. "The resonance chamber has rendered its judgment," Zhen announced, his voice carrying a note of wonder. "The union is recognized as sincere." General Krav stepped forward, mandibles clicking in agitation. "Impossible. There must be interference." "The chamber cannot be deceived," Elder Zhen reminded him firmly. "The conquered accepts this union as valid and binding. The Vorax claim is dismissed." As they exited the chamber, still surrounded by a fatting golden aura, Nadia felt surprisingly steady despite the psychic ordeal. The resonance had left her with a clearer understanding not just of Thalia, but of herself. "What just happened in there?" she asked quietly as they moved through the corridor, away from the stunned observers. Thalia's expression was thoughtful, the mathematical patterns in her robe solving gentler equations. "The chamber found truth where even we did not recognize it." "Which is?" "That perhaps this union, however unexpected, serves purposes beyond mere politics." She paused, studying Nadia with new awareness. "You surprised me, human." "Nadia," she corrected automatically. "If we're going to be married for a stellar cycle, you might as well use my name." Something like a smile touched Thalia's lips. "Nadia, then, it seems we have much to learn about each other." Later, as they stood at a viewport watching the Vorax ships reluctantly depart from Helix Station, Admiral Winters approached them. Her formal coalition uniform was impeccable, but her expression carried the weary resignation of someone who had accepted the inevitability of the impossible. "The Coalition Security Council has approved your new status," she informed Nadia. "Though I should warn you, there's already talk of creating an entire new department just to deal with the implications." "Sorry about that," Nadia replied, not feeling particularly sorry at all. The events of the past 2 days had left her with an odd sense of purpose she hadn't felt in years. "Don't be," Winters said unexpectedly. "Whatever happened in that chamber? Well, let's just say it's opened doors we didn't even know existed. The Luminari have already offered to share navigational technology that would cut interstellar travel time by half." Thalia inclined her head regally. "A wedding gift, Admiral." After Winters departed, they were left alone at the viewport, the stars beyond reflecting in the crystalline surfaces of the station. "So," Nadia said finally, "what happens now?" "Now," Thalia replied, "we navigate this unexpected alliance, day by day." "That sounds remarkably like making it up as we go along. A diplomatic approach to an undiplomatic situation." Nadia laughed, the sound startling in its genuineness. "I suppose if anyone's qualified for that, it's us." The Queen's star-filled eyes studied her with quiet intensity. "Indeed, perhaps this is why the chamber recognized truth between us. We are both adaptable." As Helix Station continued its silent orbit, Nadia Voss, former soldier, reluctant diplomat, and now unexpected consort to an alien queen, found herself contemplating the strange paths that had led her here. She had entered a marriage of convenience and discovered something else entirely, a genuine connection across the vast gulfs of species and culture. It wasn't romance, at least not yet, but it was something equally rare in the cosmic dance of diplomacy, understanding, recognition, perhaps even the beginnings of trust. To adaptability, then, she said, raising an imaginary glass. Thalia's crystalline crown caught the starlight as she nodded in agreement. And to unexpected journeys. Retry Claude can make mistakes. Please double-check responses.